So there were a lot of different championship changes in 2021, but I wanted to actually list off the original champions, the champions who began the year 2021. That means they held the belt on New Year's Day 2021. Okay, so those champions were in the women's strawweight division. You got Weili Zhang, right? You got Magnum. You got Valentina Shevchenko as the flyweight champion. Amanda Nunes as the bantamweight champion and the featherweight champion. Davison Figueiredo, he was the men's flyweight champion. Piotr Jan, bantamweight champion. Alexander Volkanovski, featherweight champion. Vacant lightweight champion. Habib had already given the belt up at the time. He had already beat Poirier, gave up the belt. Kamaru Usman as the welterweight champion, of course. Israel Adesanya, middleweight champion. Jan Blachowicz as the light heavyweight champion, and then Stipe Miocic, the GOAT right there that everyone clearly forgot still, was the heavyweight champion at the time. Now, with that being said, that's a star-studded cast of names right there, and there was a lot of change from there. So I want to talk about 7 different title changes that occurred, brother, which is kind of a lot if you think about it, man. It's like when I was looking over the numbers, I was like, that's not like a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, that's not just like, 1 or 2 champions, all that good stuff, man. So first, give me your take off 7 different title changes. I want a quick prediction right now, my man. For the year 2022, are we going over or under seven title changes, in your opinion?
Ooh, over or under 7, man. I'm going over. I think it's a big year to change. I know it's kind of crazy. That's more than 50% of the divisions we have changing, and I'm going with the over, man. I think we're in for another kind of mix them up around. What about you? What do you think? Over or under?
So I've been thinking a lot on this, man, and I was like, okay, well, if the 115, it's the women's 115, women's 135, the 125, 135, 155, 205, and 265. If all of those championships changed hands, what is the likelihood of basically that kind of same number happening again? And I think that's going to be a big year of change as well. However, I think it's going to be roughly the same number, maybe like 1 less or 1 more. But to be conservative, I'm gonna go 1 less, and I'm gonna take the under 7 on this one. So I'll go 6 of them on this one. And the reason why is because let's talk about the new champions, right? Rose Namajunas, the women's strawweight champion. No change for the flyweight championship. Juliana Pena, women's bantamweight championship. We're going to talk about that more in a second. Brandon Moreno, he is the flyweight champion, changes over Davison Figueiredo. Aljamain Sterling, you know that story, right? Champion over Piotr Jan. We'll talk about that in a second. Charles Oliveira, he claimed that vacant title, and he's been able to defend it, man. So very, very impressive. Glover Teixeira, this is one of the ones that I think will change over the year, but he got the win over Jan Blachowicz, right? He is the champion, oldest light heavyweight champion ever, I think. And Francis Ngannou, contract negotiations, all that, but he got the win over Stipe Miocic, right? So out of all of those new champions, which one is the most likely to change hands? And we're not counting Glover Teixeira because he might just retire on us. We honestly don't know there. So aside from Glover Teixeira, we're talking about Rose Namajunas, Juliana Pena, Brandon Moreno, Aljamain Sterling, Charles Oliveira, and Francis Ngannou. Which one do you think is the most likely to change?
Man, I think the easy layup for me personally would be Aljo Sterling. I think that Aljo Sterling was going to change hands. Obviously, we all know the landscape that happened behind it. I don't think Piotr Jan is going to play with his food so much coming this one. He might try to end that fight early, but we never know. Aljo might come out, pull something miraculous. Another one that's interesting, though, is the Francis Ngannou, because I feel like either way he wins or he loses, he's not on the right side of the ship with the captain. Yeah. He might end up just bailing out, but we'll talk a little bit more about that one later, too, man. What about you? What are you thinking is the one that's going to change?
You know what, man? So obviously the one for me, and listen, maybe I'm going to get proven wrong again. I'm going to have to eat crow again. But that women's bantamweight championship, Juliana Pena, right? I think that when that rematch happens, man, I think Amanda Nunes takes the title back. But then we have to ask ourselves, is Nunes still in this? Is she still like, all right, man, I want to, keep defending? Or is she like, I want to grab that second belt, get balanced out again, 2 belts, and peace, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why is because she says, you guys are crazy if you think I'm going to go out of the game unbalanced. And I was like, that's a little hint right there. I like that little signal right there saying, like, I'm not going out unless I got 2 belts on my shoulders, on both shoulders. So with that type of warrior spirit the Lioness provides, man, I think that she's going to be hungry for this one. Very, very motivated, Amanda Nunes. But then again, I could be wrong. Juliana Pena called for this fight for many, many years. She got it, and she pretty handily defeated Nunes, which is, still biggest upset of the year, right? Aside from that one, man, I'm not going to lie to you, AJ. I just have a feeling someone's going to come and they're going to take that 155-pound belt, man. You know what I mean? I think that Charlie, listen, don't get me wrong. Charlie Olives, man, he's clearly the real deal. Clearly. It's like, what more do you need to do, man? It's almost on like a 10-fight win streak, all finishes, like, what more do you need to do? But at the end of the day, if he gets somebody in there, and this is going to sound crazy because of how big of a Dustin Poirier fan in that matchup, how big of a fan I was for him right there. I was kind of saying, Dustin Poirier, he's got the spirit, the heart, he's big, strong, he's got the punching power, all that. If he gets him into the cage and crumples him over, it's going to be a long night. But I think there's a couple other intriguing matchups to be had and a couple hot risers in the lightweight division that are going to make it really interesting. So regardless, 135 and 155, I do believe, are going to be the hardest titles to be able to maintain over a long period of time, unless you're just unstoppable, man. And at this point, Petr Yan is the only one who's looking to lock down that bantamweight championship, because I don't know. I mean, listen, we see how stacked it is, but I don't know who could take it from the man. After what we saw against his performance against Corey Sandhagen, it's like, damn, man, like, what do you got to do to beat the man? And that is a quick question that I have for you. What do you have to do to beat the man, AJ?
To beat Petr Yan, man, I guess the biggest thing, you got to put him on his butt. Put homeboy on his butt and really be the bully, kind of how we saw Juliana Pena do to Amanda Nunes, where she got her off her game and started fighting that mental ego battle. But if you're fighting the ego instead of fighting the man, it's a little easier to beat, because if you're just throwing the ones and twos with Petr Yan, homeboy's going to stuff you up a lot, man. It's going to be a bloody night for you. I think the easiest thing, man, put him on the ground, let him get in that deep water and kind of start feeling some crazy things. We've never really seen Petr Yan on the defense on the ground. He's really been the aggressor and been the bully for the majority of his fights. I think that's really the only way going forward. And like I said, fighting that ego, it's the biggest way against him, man. You start breaking down that mental barriers, people start crumbling a lot faster than just with the body shots. What about you, Derek? How do you think you beat Petr Yan?
You better bring a knife or something, bro. I don't know. You feel me? Like, this dude, I'm just talking about, because when these fights are going 5 rounds, that's what I'm talking about right there. It's like he gets better and better and better every time. It's not like this is a fluke. It's not like this is a one-off. He's just getting better and better and better, man. And I don't know. I think that he is the rightful champion, to be honest. But we'll see with this rematch, because have we seen him against like a real good submission guy? Like, I'm not sure if we have. And Aljamain Sterling is that real good submission guy. He just came out with a pretty poor game plan when he fought him originally. And listen, man, we don't need to go over this again and again and again. Aljamain Sterling is a great fighter. I don't care what anybody says. It's just the way that you get the belt, man. It's like you kind of, I'm not going to say you tarnished your legacy, because you're so young. He's so young of a fighter. He can easily rebuild himself. Not even rebuild himself, but rebrand his legacy. But listen, man, you got to get a definitive win over Petr Yan, man. No mercy for a reason. But I actually wanted your take too, man, because I never let you kind of give me a little feedback on that. What do you think about my pick for Charles Oliveira, title changing hands? Do you think he's going to keep it around, a couple more defenses, or what do you think is going to happen in that division?
That's probably the hardest choice I have to think about, man, because that is like the most contended division. You have Makhachev, you have Benny Dariush, you got all these people, not even the greats that have been in there for a while. Dustin might come back. Who knows? There's all kinds of ways that this one unfolds. I think that one is probably the one that's going to be hardest to keep around. That's going to be the hardest strap. 155, it's always been the hardest strap to keep around. We saw Khabib do it for a long time. Well, not necessarily a long time, but the majority of the time, and it's been people's recent memory. I think that one's going to change up hands a lot, man. Unless Charlie Olives can just really start growing even more exponentially than he has been, I think that one's going to be up and down, man.
Yeah, I hear you. So, lastly, when it comes down to this light heavyweight championship, like I said, I'm not going to be surprised. That's the easiest one for me to assume. The title keeps changing hands, but no John Jones, clearly. If Jan Blachowicz, he's not going to get a title rematch or anything like that after losing so definitively. But if Glover Teixeira decides, I'm going to take like one title defense, get the pay-per-view points, and then I'm skedaddling, I'm skipping out, where does the title go? Does it go back to Jan Blachowicz? Does Dominic Reyes resurge? Is Yuri Prochazka? Is he the guy? Who's the other dark horse in the division right now? Not Yuri Prochazka, but it's
Rakic.
Alexander Rakic is one of those names, I suppose. But it's who is he? Yeah, I think there's one person that we're missing that we're going to be pretty feeling dumb a little bit. You know what I mean? So I'm going to pull up the rankings while we're doing this. But just give me your take on that, man. Like with the state of the light heavyweight division, is that the most in flux division right now, or would it be the women's bantamweight division without Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes?
Oh man, I think that light heavyweight championship, that's one of the weirder ones because you're right. There's a very also kind of how the heavyweight is. There's a pretty big drop off of who it is. I think honestly, if Glover Teixeira retires, I think you got to put in Alexander Rakic versus Yuri Prohashka. It's kind of the way it's going. I don't necessarily see Dominic Reyes getting his shot, not necessarily Anthony Smith getting in there, but maybe a little bit of those old school dogs. I think the more draw of the fight has to be the Rakic versus Yuri Prohashka. Yuri's been on a rise, man, but the thing is, he only fought, I believe it was one time in 2021. So we need to see him come back, get a little bit more, get that crowd going, have the weird, funky hairstyles, the bowing, all that crazy shit that he likes to do, just to kind of get people remembering who he was, because everybody forgets, man, real fast. Everybody forgets real fast.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to get Yuri with the 5G antenna hair. You know what I'm saying? Sticking up. Nah, shout out, man. Real martial arts, Bushido. Come on, man. But listen, so I know the person I was missing, and I think that's going to go later into some of my predictions. But I was talking Magomed Ankalaev, bro. Come on, what are we talking about? How could you forget the man? We're going to talk about those in the predictions just a little bit later, man. But right now, that's just kind of looking at title. Right now, this is obviously like the title segment. You know what I mean? We're looking at the champions, who's going to change, what's the state of the divisions.